Have you ever felt frustrated or impatient with your healing progress, wondering why it's taking so long? Are you holding on to the idea that healing has to happen on a specific timeline or by a certain date or in a certain way? And if things don't go as planned in your healing journey, how do you respond? Do you push harder? Do you become discouraged? If you've ever felt stuck or frustrated in your healing journey, wondering why things aren't happening as quickly as you'd like or going how you want them to go, you're certainly not alone. So many people, including myself at various times in my healing journey, try to force progress, thinking that if we just push a little harder or figure out what that perfect quote unquote solution is, then we're going to heal faster. But what if that exertion and that desperation, that force is actually getting in the way of your healing and your productivity and your enjoyment of healing? Healing doesn't happen by force, and it certainly doesn't happen by rushing. Healing happens when we learn to relax into the process and trust that everything is unfolding as it's meant to and for our growth and our learning. Healing happens when we learn to accept where we are in the present moment and accept that person with love and gratitude and simultaneously striving to become, better, healthier, happier, more empowered, more ascended, more awakened versions of ourselves. We can be those two things simultaneously. So in today's episode, we're going to explore why trying to control or speed up your healing can actually block it and slow it down. I'm going to discuss how letting go and aligning with flow and leaning into your innate and divine relationship with the universe is going to help you experience deeper and more authentic and way, way more enjoyable healing and growth. Because again, healing happens when we stop fighting with ourselves. We stop fighting with the universe and we start trusting ourselves, trusting the universe. So I'm here to help you make peace with that process. Welcome to The Simple Source, your source for all things self-love, self-healing, personal growth, and spirituality. I'm your host, Linda Valines. I used to be chronically sick and unhappy. I spent years trying anything and everything to heal, but I never got better. It wasn't until my late husband was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer that I finally stopped searching for the answers outside of myself and turned within. I taught myself how to truly love and heal myself, how to finally be authentically healthy and happy, mind, body, and soul. I have over 10 years of personal and professional self-healing and teaching experience. I'm a trauma-informed, certified holistic health and wellness coach, certified Ayurveda counselor, and author. I healed myself of a lifetime of complex traumas and chronic conditions with joy and ease. Now I'm teaching you to do the same. So if you're ready to heal and love yourself more, mind, body, and soul, without all the struggle and stress, and with more joy and productivity, join me to liberate your highest, healthiest, and happiest self and learn how to thrive more simply. Let's get started with today's episode. So hello again. It's been a couple weeks. As you can see, if you're watching as opposed to listening, as you can see, we're in my living room as opposed to my office/studio. So neighbors' dogs being extra loud. And also, isn't it nice to have like a little change of scenery every now and again? I really like blue, clearly. So anywho, I had to take a breather for a couple of weeks because life was getting very hectic and I needed to just breathe. So thanks for being here. So let's get into it, friend. If you've been feeling impatient or discouraged with your progress, this episode really is for you. And I know that experience is a lot of people on their healing journeys. That was me for most of my healing journey. In the very beginning, I was constantly discouraged, constantly feeling frustrated and feeling very impatient. So I want to explore how you can stop forcing, how you can redirect that energy and start flowing into your healing journey, because that's actually when we start to heal. I wanted to bring this up because this is something I'm actually personally dealing with right now. So I will share a little bit of my own personal healing journey so that there's some context for you, and just so that you have an understanding of how I am utilizing my own advice here. So I accidentally made myself hypothyroid twice in the past 2 years, which is funny, if it weren't physically annoying. So I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, like over 10 years ago, literally at the same time that my husband was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And so, at the time, I was like, sure, I'll take the medication. You know what I mean? Like, my husband has 2 years left, and like, this is fine. I'll take the natural desiccated thyroid hormone. So I've been on hypothyroid medication for over 10 years. And once I found the right endocrinologist and the right dose, it was a non-issue. I had no issues anymore with my thyroid. And then I got really burnt out last year in 2023. Can't believe it's at the end of 2024, but that's a whole other, we don't need to get into that. Anywho, so I got burnt out in 2023 so severely, and I wasn't sleeping. Long story short, I changed how I took my thyroid medication because I thought when you take natural desiccated thyroid hormones, oftentimes you are recommended to take it twice a day to help your thyroid levels be more stable. So I was taking it right before I went to bed. That's how I took it for like 10 years. And I was like, maybe I'm not sleeping because I'm taking my thyroid medication right before bed. At any rate, that was my logic. And my endocrinologist didn't tell me to do that, to change my medication. I just took it upon myself and accidentally made myself hypothyroid. Then, of course, that caused all sorts of strange symptoms that I didn't even realize that was happening. And then when I realized that's what was happening, I just went back to my normal dose and it was fine. And then because of that, I was led by my guides, by the universe, to the medical medium, Anthony Williams, because he has a whole thyroid healing protocol. He has a whole philosophy about symptoms and chronic conditions, et cetera. And so I was like, yeah, because I have always wanted to, at some point in my life, naturally wean off my thyroid medication. Because again, at the time of my diagnosis, literally the same week that I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, my late husband was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And it was just, one is more severe than the other. So as the years went by, I was like, I really wish I would have just tried to naturally heal my thyroid instead of taking medication. And so I was led to the medical medium. I was like, yeah, sure. Now is the time for me to do that. And so I started his protocols, and I didn't reduce my medication because I didn't realize, I just had started his cleanses and I was experimenting with his dietary protocols, et cetera. And I wasn't adjusting my thyroid medication because I didn't think I needed to, but his protocols were so effective that I accidentally made myself hyperthyroid, which is, too many thyroid hormones. And that was a whole imbalance and physical thing. And then my new endocrinologist overcorrected my medication, and then I became hypothyroid. So my thyroid has been really all over the place in the past year, and it's resulted in these symptoms, albeit temporary. They're still annoying. One of the things is I gained 20 pounds this year, which may not seem like, wow, Linda, that's an enormous amount of weight. That's sarcasm. I know that may not seem like a ton of weight, but I'm 5'1.5". So that's, noticeable on a petite person like me. And because of me having to adjust my thyroid medication and me being hyper and then hypo and all of this happening, within a year's time. And so I've been dealing with symptoms of inflammation because of all the detoxing that I've been doing and because of the stress that my body has been under because I've been adjusting my medication so much. And so my plan, so here we go, back to the topic of this show's episode. My plan last winter, when I was like, I'm going to start the medical medium protocols, I'm going to wean off my medication by the end of next year. That was my plan. I was going to take a year to wean off my medication. And clearly that's not going to happen. it's not happening. So we're now in fall officially, and I've just made peace. This is why I'm talking about this topic and why this episode is this episode. Because I've recently just come to terms with, okay, so Linda, that's not going to happen. You're not going to be weaned off your thyroid medication by the end of the year. And that's okay. And I've spent a lot of this year on that journey, specifically being really dedicated to it. And I'm just understanding that my body isn't ready to completely wean off my medication. I've been on thyroid medication for over 10 years, and I can't be mad at my body for that. I can't force it to do something when it's not ready to do something. So I've been able to reduce my medication, which that within itself is like naturally, just from diet alone, dietary changes alone and some supplements, completely naturally. So that within itself is such a huge, like, monumental feat that most doctors would be like, huh? So I have made progress. Is it the progress that I initially planned to make? Was it in accordance to my grand plan? No. And making peace with the fact that it's just going to be a slower process for me has been hugely healing in itself. Honestly, there were many moments of frustration for me this year. Dealing with 20 extra pounds has been the bulk of the frustration, because that means that I can't, like, 90% of my clothes I don't fit into. And I don't want to buy a whole new wardrobe. I love clothes. Fashion and style have always been very important to me, and I love my fucking clothes. And I also know that this is temporary, but here's the lesson here, friend. I understood that the reason that I've been going through all of this, the whole actually grander plan, the universal spiritual plan, was for me to learn in all of this lagging of my ability to wean off my thyroid medication has really forced me to examine more deeply my body image issues that I've had, like, my entire life. From a very young age, my mom and my father were very critical of how I looked. I'm Asian, and Asian parents are just, like, really critical. Not every single one, but it's a generalization that's pretty fair. So, and my mom in particular was very, very, very critical about how I looked. And she was often very mean and mentally and emotionally abusive about communicating to me her opinion about how I looked. And so that created, of course, deep body image and self-worth issues around how I physically looked. And so I've realized that things not going according to my plan was actually in service of the larger plan, which is to give me this opportunity to really heal on a deeper level those issues. Because of course I've done healing about that. Of course I have. And I've come a long way. But, sitting here with 20 extra pounds that haven't really budged that much despite a lot of effort, at a certain point you have to go, what is the lesson here? What am I supposed to be learning? Because I know that this is in service of me. This is not a punishment. I'm not being punished. I'm being presented a profound healing and growth and learning opportunity. So I've been granted the opportunity to heal this on a deeper layer. And, just because we confront an issue and we do healing work and achieve growth in one area of our life doesn't mean that you've healed every single neural pathway and subconscious narrative connected to that issue. And then that means that you're never going to have to address it again. I do believe that you do get a point where you achieve neuroplasticity, and then the neural pathways and the connections rooted in that trauma narrative, they do wither and die from disuse, and because you have created stronger, new, healed, empowered narratives that you have reinforced. But that takes time, repetition, and commitment to ongoing healing work and evolution. But in the past month, I've realized more distinctly how everything that I've been dealing with this year in terms of healing my thyroid and weaning off my medication, it's just part of a much larger plan, that universal plan. If it only took me 6 months to wean off my thyroid medication completely, then I never would have had this opportunity to confront the deeper layers of healing around my body image issues and all that inner child work that has been so beautiful and so life-affirming for me this summer. And that also would have meant that the other areas of my life that are connected to those wounds, those old childhood narratives and pains would also have been stunted because everything's connected. Healing is layered, and every time we heal, we unlock a new layer, or rather we gain access to a deeper part of ourselves because we have communicated through our healing that we are ready to meet another aspect of ourselves that our subconscious has been keeping safe until we're ready. And that's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. Another thing is that I've made peace with, and this is why I was like, you should really do an episode about this, is in the past month, I've had to come to terms with my deep desire to be vegan is not perhaps a thing that my body wants right now. And that has been a real coming to terms with because I've spent the last year being 100% vegan and it was awesome. I actually loved it. And I was raw vegan for a time after my husband was diagnosed. We were raw vegan for a minute, but then I just became I was vegetarian and then I was pescatarian. And then last year I just spent the whole year being vegan. Even though I loved it, I'm realizing that my body may not want to be 100% vegan as it's correcting all the hormonal imbalances of this year. Although I would love to be vegan 100% for many reasons, for our planet, for the animals, for my overall longevity, I've just had to make peace with how my body's communicating with me and my body's specific needs at this time and what it wants, and really having to let go of the notion that I want it to heal or optimize its health in a very specific way. Now, that doesn't mean that I'll never be able to go back to being 100% vegan, but I have to honor what my body is telling me, and I can't force it to function in a way that it doesn't want to right now. We can't force our way into healing. We have to relax into it. I say this all the time, especially in the beginning of my program. I drill that message in from the start because it is true. That's what I learned when I healed myself and achieved spontaneous remission of a bunch of chronic conditions before my late husband passed. I'd realized that I'd spent many years on a healing journey, but I wasn't healing. I was just dealing with the same problems, stuck in the same frustrating places because I wasn't showing up every day for my healing journey in a healing way. I was showing up in a forceful, stressful, desperate, disempowered, and disconnected way. And when I learned about the mind-body connection and training to become a holistic health coach, it became crystal clear that how I was approaching healing was actually blocking healing as opposed to facilitating it. So why can't true healing happen when we try to force it? Force is tension, friend. Tension is stress, and stress activates the fight or flight response, which innately, that's the stress response. That innately turns off your self-healing capabilities. That's how our bodies are naturally designed. When our bodies sense stress, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical, when it receives that cue, then it releases stress hormones. And those hormones tell the rest of our body to turn off healing and to prioritize survival mode. So in essence, forcing healing signals stress or danger because that force, again, is tension, okay? And when our nervous systems receive that cue from our mind or body, and we're doing that constantly, we're living that way, we're showing up every day for a healing journey in a tense, stressful, forceful, agitated, desperate way, authentic healing is really going to be impossible because we can't heal in stress mode. We have to heal in parasympathetic. Healing requires a relaxed state. That's what happens when your parasympathetic nervous system is activated. It's when you feel calm or relaxed, regulated, when your body and your mind are receiving cues of safety as opposed to stress. And so that means to heal, we have to stress less and relax more. And that innately means that we have to stop holding on so much, trying to control everything, and learn to let go, learn to flow. Letting go doesn't mean we do nothing, that we become passive, that nothing matters and I'll just do whatever. I'm letting go. Letting go means working in harmony with how your body and mind naturally function and working in harmony with the universe and the natural flow that you are naturally a part of. And also working in harmony with your soul, your own innate wisdom and guidance. Most people have control issues, and there's so much in society and culture that pressures everyone to fix themselves quickly. And because it's so unacceptable to be anything other than perfect. And that has led us all to not question or challenge why we approach life and our goals with so much force and so much tension, so much desperation. And we're all conditioned to prove our worth with our productivity. We're all conditioned to push ourselves and to meet these external timelines and these external standards that don't really mean anything. Who made those standards? What do those standards mean to me? They mean absolutely nothing. And that illusion that we get fed constantly about control, about needing to prove, about if you're not perfect, then you are not enough, then you are not lovable, then you are not whole. That's all such an illusion. And the more that we approach life that way, the more that we approach our healing journey that way, the more we introduce counterproductive energy to our life and to our healing, because we're just reinforcing stress. We're just reinforcing trauma narratives and trauma responses, and we're delaying our healing because we are so conditioned to live in a chronic state of stress because stress is so normalized and having control issues is so normalized and codependency is so normalized. And so, of course, most people approach their healing journey in the way that they approach the rest of their lives, which is by force and willpower, and I need to prove myself, and it has to happen in this very specific way in a very specific timeline. Otherwise, it's not valid because it didn't happen quickly, and then that means that I'm a failure, and I can't be a failure, and there's just so much wounding there. And there's no way that you can enjoy your healing journey when you're approaching your healing journey that way. Healing is such a deeply personal and intuitive and organic process. It's not a project. You're not a project. You don't need to be fixed. You're completely whole and absolutely 1,000% lovable and good enough and worthy and deserving of everything that you want and deserve, exactly as you are right now. Exactly as you are right now. You don't have to strive to be perfect because you were already perfect. That's the irony. You're whole. Your wholeness is your perfection. You don't need to be fixed. You're not a project. There's no deadline for you to arrive at. So if you can embrace that you've arrived, you're already here, and where you are now is where you are supposed to be for some lesson that your soul intended to learn, then you can truly let go of all of that stress and that tension, those external expectations and those ridiculous standards that don't mean anything. They certainly don't promise any degree of genuine happiness in your life or health, because health is also a deeply personal, very individualistic thing. What health and happiness means to me, what it is, what it looks like to me, what it feels like to me is so unique to me and so different from you. Yeah, sure, there are some overlapping things. We all need to drink clean water. We all need to eat, sufficient, well-balanced nutrients, etc. We all need to move and sleep. Those are all like basic human necessities, but those things don't define health or happiness. And so when you surrender yourself to yourself, which is really what healing is, it's a return to you. It's a reclamation of your authenticity, your wholeness, your divinity, your power. It's you coming home to you, and you let all of that other bullshit go. That's when the real authentic growth and transformation happens, because you're not imprisoned to some ideal, to some wounded narrative, to some stressful pattern, to some outdated trauma response. You're free. And so when you can relax into your healing journey intentionally by making choices to stress less and to let go more, you then are available to the flow of how your mind and your body naturally heal, the flow of your own existence within the universe. And that flow, when you become available to it by letting go of all that bullshit, those timelines, that forcing, that needing to prove, the needing to be in control, the desperation, when you let go of that and you welcome relaxation and you become available to your natural flow, mind, body, soul, then you also become aligned with the natural flow or rhythms of the universe, which is one of the reasons that I love Ayurveda, why I studied Ayurveda, and I continue to practice its principles. Nature flows. Nature never forces. There are natural ebbs and flows and seasons and transitions and periods of growth and periods of rest. And that's nature, and we are nature. So the more that we can embrace flow and rhythm and seasons and the truth that nature knows how to self-organize into coherence and beauty, and we are nature. And so that means that when we get out of our own way and we learn to live in that flow instead of letting the conscious egoic mind force and try to control, the more we become coherent, the more that we and our life unfold beautifully. I love how Nassim Haramein, the physicist that I am so unabashedly obsessed with right now, like I can't stop listening to his lectures. I love how he talks about manifestation. He says we manifest when we exist in flow by becoming attuned to and listening to our inner voice, that inner guidance within us all the time. Because that inner guidance is always directing us toward our peace, toward what's authentic for us, toward our joy, our power, all the things that are aligned with our highest self and highest good. Because that inner voice is in sync with the universe. And so being in flow with our inner guidance means that we are in flow with the universe, because that inner guidance is really our soul. We've all experienced that when we have that aha moment or the breakthrough that just like sort of came out of nowhere, or when wonderful synchronicities happen, or we just have some knowing or some insight that comes from, quote unquote, nowhere, but really it's from us. It's from our spirit. It's from our connection to the universe. It's from the fact that we are the universe. Or, we have that dream that hits us so deep that when we wake up, we're not sure that we are even awake. And what is dreaming and what is the waking state? That is you connected to flow. That is you connected to your natural vitality. And so when you lean into that connection with your soul, with the universe, with your highest self, to your divinity, of course, you're going to be connected to your infinite power and potential, because you're connected to your highest consciousness, to your infinite power, to the universe. And that's when healing becomes really fun and accelerates and becomes so enjoyable and so magical, because you're no longer forcing it. You are just simply a vehicle, which is what we all are. This is what the body is. It's just a vehicle for the soul in this lifetime. You become a vehicle for your highest wisdom and truth to flow through you. And then you are always going to be led to what is going to serve you and what you want and what you deserve. When we stop forcing and using our egoic selves and that monkey brain that's, if you haven't trained it, that's always on and like speaking nonsense a lot of the time, that's trying to control everything and rush and hurry and prove, and you just start to learn to be in the present moment and to let that wisdom and that guidance from within emerge, that's when the healing process stops becoming a struggle. Because even if you aren't exactly where you wanted to be right now, you're going to have so much clarity. You're going to have so much understanding that where you are is exactly where you need to be. Like what I explained to you at the beginning of this episode in my own healing journey. Because when I stopped going, damn it, I really wanted to be at this point in my healing journey at this time. And I just made peace with, all right, this is where I am. This is where I am for a reason. What is the lesson here that I'm being presented with? Because I am stuck here because I haven't learned that damn lesson. What's the lesson? All right, I'm going to be open to it. And when I became available to it, then it was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Thank you. So you have to trust that you already know why you are where you are. When you do that, when you start to trust yourself, when you develop that self-trust, you also innately begin to trust in the universe because, again, you are the universe and you're certainly connected to it all the time. And I do believe the divine timing is a thing. But being okay with that timing requires a level of trust and patience that a lot of people don't have while they're healing. And it's one of the reasons that I have a foundational phase in my program where I teach self-trust, patience through self-love and connecting with our authentic selves. We have to be able to trust. We have to be able to practice patience and healing because those two things allow us to not only feel safe in ourselves, but they allow us to relax into the healing process. And again, that's the only way healing happens. You cannot heal and be stressed at the same time. You physically cannot be at peace or calm and also tense at the same time. Like your brain and your body cannot do that. It's either I'm stressed and something's wrong, or it's cool, I'm chill, I'm regulated. So the more that you relax and you trust and you let go and you practice patience, the more fulfilling your healing journey is going to be because the more productive it's going to be. We have to invite that universal plan. We have to merge that universal plan with our plan in order for healing to truly happen productively because everything's connected. And when we lean into that fact, healing can then occur in ways that we may not immediately understand or expect. That's when healing becomes so magical. That's when it becomes an adventure. That's when you stop dreading your healing journey and you start looking forward to it. But you have to get there in a relaxed way. You don't arrive to that, ooh, my healing journey is an adventure by being stressed out and forcing it and showing up in a desperate, intense way every day. And of course, that happens through learning how to be at peace with yourself. If you're not at peace with yourself, you're going to have a really difficult time being at peace with your healing journey, which is why I teach self-love in the foundational phase of my program. It makes such a massive difference. And in that adventure, in the healing journey that is an adventure, when you get to that place of, yeah, this is fucking awesome. Like I'm learning so much about myself. Like that's why you're here. That's why your soul chose to be embodied in this life, to have an adventure, to learn, to experience, to grow, to evolve, to heal. So when you surrender your plan to the universal plan, or at least try to marry it, and you practice trust, you practice patience, and you allow your healing to unfold how it's supposed to unfold, you understand that everything happens like perfectly as it should. And then you get even more relaxed, and then healing happens even more productively. And do you see the productive feedback loop there that you have created? That's what you want. And that's not to say that healing doesn't come with heavy and emotional times when you're unpacking deep shit, but all of that isn't debilitating. It's part of the adventure. I firmly believe that the pain is just as liberating as the joy, but you have to build a relationship with that pain from love. If you have a relationship to your fears and to your traumas that is colored by intimidation and self-doubt and a lot of limiting beliefs, you're not going to be able to engage with the deeper and darker aspects of yourself and your healing journey with any sort of confidence. It's going to feel heavy and daunting and burdensome. And then there's no real beauty in that. It's all just dark and awful. And that's how healing is for a lot of people. For most people, they don't see how beautiful it is. They don't see how magical it can be because there's so much stress and tension and so many limiting beliefs that people have about healing that limits their healing potential and their capability and their experience. So when you learn to make peace with the fact that healing is an adventure, and some adventures have some twists and turns, let me tell you, but that's part of the fun. And when you can build that dynamic with all parts of yourself, when you can relate to the pain and the grief and the sorrow with authenticity and presence and be fully there to show up for it in an engaged and respectful manner, but also have that detachment to say, okay, that's not all of who I am. That doesn't define me. You can then meet all of the uncertainty and that mystery ahead with so much more confidence and so much more joy overall. Healing is not linear. It's not really predictable. There's a way to approach healing to make it stable and safe and certainly way more productive. And that's what I teach. But everyone's healing journey is different because everyone's life and experience is unique to them. And so that means that there is no one set way to heal that is going to encompass every single person on the planet. So you have to embrace that your specific healing journey is going to be revealed as you heal. And that's part of the growth and the evolution and the joy of healing. And when you do embrace that mystery and the uncertainty, and of course that requires you to do your trauma healing work to meet and confront all of your fears around change and uncertainty and mystery. So when you do, and you have developed more confidence in existing in uncertainty, and you have the tools and the capability and the practice to live in presence, then you're going to know yourself so much more profoundly. And the more that you know yourself, the more that you can heal. That's what healing really is. Again, it's you coming home to yourself. And you have to trust that that is what the process is. There's nothing scary about that. You, as much darkness as you have, you're also a being of light. I mean, that's actually what we are. You're made of light. And so there's nothing scary about that. So you have to learn to let go and trust the process and stop rushing and stop forcing and stop being so stressed all the time and start prioritizing loving yourself and connecting to the parts of yourself that need healing, like your inner child, like your shadow, and embody the fact that healing is in and of itself an act of self-love. It's not some obligation. It's not you completing a project. It's you getting to know yourself and loving all of yourself. And that's such a beautiful journey. And when you can flow in that journey as opposed to trying to force it and put it into these containers and these parameters, and just exist that way and live in harmony with the universe and nature and allow it to unfold how it unfolds, your progress is going to accelerate in a way that you can't even imagine right now. Even though you may be going through a difficult time, even though you may not be where you want to be, trust me, I understand. Everything is happening for you. Everything is happening for your ultimate highest good. Life is always in service of us. Life is not happening to us. Life is happening for us. I'm sure you've heard it, but it's true. So the more that you practice self-acceptance and self-love and self-trust, and you let go of the comparison and the expectation and recognize that you are exactly where you need to be to learn a specific thing, and that you trust that you're always supported, that you're always loved, and that you are always guided, then healing is going to become so much more enjoyable and so much more magical and fun, because by tuning into yourself, by being available to that flow, that natural flow that you have access to all the time, when you tune in to yourself, your intuition, your inner knowing, your highest self, you have access to so much power and intelligence. And in that, you really gain access to the truth that you're never lost. You're never alone. Even when you're feeling frustrated and again, you don't feel like you are where you want to be. You're just exactly where you're supposed to be. So here is your action step for the week. I want you to answer for yourself. What have you been trying to force? What have you been showing up for with a lot of tension and a lot of expectation? And how can you engage with that thing with more acceptance, with more peace, and with more love? And that's going to entail you acknowledging where that tension, where that desperation, where that need for validation or the compulsion to do or prove comes from. And it's going to require you to give that part of yourself love and to create safety for that part of yourself. And then once you have done that, that's all a process. But once you've done that, then practice being in the moment and having gratitude for the moment. Every single moment is transitory. This moment right now will never be the same again. And how sacred that is. And there's so many blessings in this one singular moment in life. And to be available to those blessings, that is a powerful healing act in and of itself. And then last action step for the week is, how can you trust that inner voice? How can you trust that inner guidance? How can you become available to the flow that is happening all around you and within you with an open heart and an open mind? Because again, we heal more readily, more enjoyably, more productively when we are in flow and we're not forcing. Because when we can get out of the way, we clear so many blocks to our own liberation, our own vitality and radiance. And the more that you do that, the more that you let go and you acknowledge, hey, I'm already perfect as I am right now. I'm whole and I'm enough and I'm lovable and I'm beautiful and I'm already everything that I want to be. There's just all of this illusion clouding my perception of that. You're going to get to a place where you feel healed. And then that's when real magical stuff happens, because then you're telling your nervous system, your mind, and your body a new narrative. And they're going to match that narrative because that's what they're designed to do. Thank you so much for joining me today in The Simple Source. I hope this episode has inspired you, reminded you of your healing power, and reawakened you to who your true and highest self is. If the show has empowered and enlightened your self-love, growth, and healing journey, please share this episode, leave a positive review on Apple or Spotify, and subscribe to be reminded of new episodes. I am so grateful for your presence, and all of your comments and your support are seen and read and deeply appreciated. They really do help this show so much. Also, sign up for my newsletter, The Weekly Source, to get more healing tips, motivation stories, and to get to know me better. And if you haven't read my book, Unconditional, You Are Perfect As You Are, I invite you to get your copy today and start reading. And lastly, I would love to see you inside my Source membership, the only holistic and comprehensive step-by-step self-healing program that is proven to work. It's time to stop struggling to heal and time to learn how to thrive more simply and joyfully. All the links are in the show notes. Thanks again for joining me today, and I will see you next time.